Okay, today we're working on my 2003 Mitsubishi Eclipse. It has the 2.4 liter four-cylinder engine in it. Symptoms I've been having is hesitation, also some check engine light codes. I was getting a cylinder number 3 misfire code, as well as a catalyst inefficiency code. Few things to check first, if you're getting that. Check for air leaks, vacuum leaks. If it's sucking in extra air, it could lead to misfiring and getting that catalyst inefficiency code. I did end up having a hole in this intake tube. They no longer make this intake tube for the Mitsubishi unless you go with an aftermarket cold air intake system. I'm in California, so I would need to find a CARB legal system to put in here for me to be able to pass smog. So I just ended up doing some duct tape on there and then threw some black electrical tape over it to kind of hide it from the smog guy. See if I can sneak that past him next time. If not, then I'll have to go with the cold air system. But yeah, fix this leak. I did have this vacuum hose was cracked as well, so I replaced this vacuum hose. I also cleaned the mass airflow sensor, but was still having the symptoms of not being able to give it more than half throttle without it wanting to hesitate and misfire. So next thing I did was I seafoamed the throttle body. You end up unhooking this hose, and then the seafoam can will tell you what to do. But yeah, seafoam that out, cleaned out all the carbon and everything, turned the check engine light off for a day or so, but then my symptoms came back and the check engine light came back on. So next, I tested my throttle position sensor. Seemed like it would be the throttle position sensor, since anywhere halfway on the throttle it was cutting out, so it could have been that, but did a voltage test on that. That seemed to pass the voltage test. So the next thing you would do is check your fuel pressure. I don't have the equipment to do that, so I just started assuming that it must be my fuel pressure regulator. So I went ahead and just bought a fuel pressure regulator. You can see I just installed it back here. It's easy to replace. You've got these two bolts here, this vacuum hose on the top running to the intake, and then you got your fuel return line down there. So you'll remove those hoses first, and then remove those two bolts. And then closest thing I could find for a torque spec on these bolts was about 8-10 foot-pounds. I don't know if that's correct. My Haynes manual didn't state it where it said it was going to be in the manual. But yeah, I got that guy all installed. I did notice when I was taking it apart, my vacuum line here where it connects to the intake was wet with what I would assume would be fuel. If this is wet, or this side is wet, that would be because the diaphragm in here is leaking. So with that diaphragm leaking, it's not controlling the fuel pressure, and in my case, it wasn't giving me the correct fuel pressure at the higher RPMs. You do also want to check around here, see if there's fuel leaking out of here. There's an O-ring that seals the fuel off in there, so if that O-ring's cracked, could be leaking fuel and affecting your fuel pressure that way as well. But yeah, simple to replace. When you put the, what did I do in my old one? Oh, it's over here. So when you do put the new one in, you will just want to put a little bit of oil, a little bit of grease on there on the O-ring, so you don't end up breaking that O-ring as you're installing it, and it's going to slide in a lot easier. You will see that my vacuum hose did rip off as I was taking it off. And I would assume that's because there was fuel running through there and started degrading that vacuum line. But got the new one in, just got back from a test drive, and yeah, now I can put my foot to the floor on this guy and it's not misfiring or anything, and the check engine light did turn itself off. So I believe that was my issue. So if you're having issues like that, could be your fuel pressure regulator, but once again, you can test it if you have the right equipment, but I did not have the equipment to test this. But I would check all the easy stuff first. If it's not that, then I would move on to fuel pressure.